Shalom Aleichem. That in Hebrew means peace to you and is the common Israeli greeting if you were to actually be in the country of Israel or amongst those individuals that speak Hebrew and are probably practicing Jews, either Orthodox or Hasidic. Shalom Aleichem. Today is our final session for our first semester of Hebrew. And let me say to the three of you, you are extremely brave. You have started this course and you have kept the faith and you're seeing it through to the end. I profusely apologize to you that we are having to cover so much material in such a short amount of time. But that's the nature of the course, and I am actually going to recommend that maybe instead of doing 2 8-week courses to cover the entire semester of Hebrew, that we turn them into 2 16-week courses, because I would love to get your feedback on this. So if you want to put a note and populate to me and just let me know if this 8-week course has worked for you and you feel like you have caught on to the basic concepts that we've covered through the Cal imperfect weak verb, or if you agree with me and you think that it's just a little too fast to cover so much material that is in more ways than one quite foreign to us. So I look forward to getting notes from you guys just to get some feedback on you. And very special hello to Martina, and know that our prayers are with you for a quick and full recovery. So just some things that you'll need to know for your Hebrew final. I am no longer asking you to do your Genesis translation. That just seems to be too much, and your word studies definitely are still on the table, but that translation work I think may be a little too ambitious for us at this point. So I am no longer going to require that, and I'll put that 5%. Probably I'll add it. I'll just give it to you. And that way everyone has at least a 5 in Hebrew. So those 5 points will just be given to you. Because you guys have been faithful in your attendance, faithful in turning in your work, and faithful to stay in communication with me. So for your final, everything from chapter 1 through chapter 16 is open game. I will, of course, we'll pick up with the Cal imperfect weak verb, the area, let's see where we left off. I'll pick up with the Cal imperfect weak in the one Aleph position, and you'll have that material that will be new for the remainder. It's chapter 16, point 10 to the end of the chapter. That will be new material, but there will also be material from the previous chapters. The best way to study for this quiz exam is to go back and look at your former exams, your first 7 exams or quizzes. Study those, and also know your workbook and know your vocabulary. I will give you the final exam in 2 portions. The first portion will be vocabulary, and you will have 50 vocab words on this quiz. And with your vocabulary, you may use no outside helps or aids. It will be strictly what you have memorized from chapters 3 through 16. So your vocabulary will be 50 words randomly selected from chapters 3 through 16. Then I will give you the second part of the exam, and that will include your verb parsing and translation of sentences that you should be able at this point to translate. So verbal parsing and then the translation of sentences. And they'll be in 2 sections. I will give you approximately 20 verbs to parse. They're all going to be Cal at this point, but they will be either perfect or imperfect. And then the person, number, gender, and then you will translate that verb for me. Something that I've come across when I look over your quizzes is that when I receive them, the English is backwards, and I'm not certain how we can remedy this, but it's causing a little bit of stress for me to try to grade what you've written backwards. That's not a superpower that I have to read backwards. So if you can do whatever you need to do to remedy that I would be most grateful. One way that would certainly take care of it is if you were to print your exam and then handwrite it, scan it, and then send it to me as a scanned document. That would definitely work. But whatever you can do there, I will totally leave that up to you. Well, let's start and jump right in with the Cal Imperfect one olive verb. There are two types of the one olive verb in the imperfect. There's the type 1, and it inflects like a type 1 of the one gutturals. This word here is ya'asur, and there's no new memorization that's needed for this verb or for this type 1. You just follow the same paradigm as the one gutturals. So there's no need to memorize anything new, because this one olive type 1 is going to inflect just like the type 1 class of the one gutturals. However, of course, there's always a second type that you need to deal with. And the type 2 verbs of the one olive class have a holum performative vowel and a pathic stem vowel, and the olive is quiescent in each of the paradigms. So here the word is yomar. So the type 1s we're not going to worry about, because you've already memorized those, because it's the same as the type 1 class of the one guttural verbs. It's the type 2 where the olive is quiescent that we're going to have to spend some time looking at this morning, or at least it's morning for me. Some of you may be watching this at midnight. Here we have the paradigm for the Cal Imperfect Week one olive verbs. This is also going to be written down for you on page 180, 16.10 of your textbook. And in the type 2 one olive verb, let's look at the type 2, because the type 1 is just going to follow the same as your type 1 gutturals. So with the type 2, we have yomar, tomar, tomar, tomri, and omar. The first common singular of this, which is the aleph, mem, resh, the first common singular, omar, the aleph occurs only once. And that's strange, because you would think that it should be spelled aleph, aleph, mem, resh. But Hebrew doesn't like when two identical consonants show up back to back. So what happens here is that the olive, one of the olives just completely drops out. It goes away, and there's no dogish forte, and we all know why. It's because gutturals will not take a dogish forte. So the dogish forte cannot be added, because the olive is a guttural, and gutturals do not take the dogish forte. So think about this just for a second. The aleph, mem, resh that we have here is pronounced omar. If it were spelled aleph, aleph, mem, resh, it would still be pronounced omar. So there's no difference in pronunciation, but that's why you're not going to see it spelled aleph, dogish forte, or aleph, aleph. Hebrew does not like the double consonants. A guttural cannot take a dogish forte, so that quiescent olive just drops out, and it does not change the pronunciation, not one bit. And so that gives a little bit of an explanation. And here you can see this type 2 paradigm and become familiar with it. Again, you're going to be able to take your Hebrew aid in with you to do your verb parsing and your translation. And this should help you immensely, because if you don't know it and you're not familiar with your verbal paradigms going into the exam, it's not going to help you very much. But if you're familiar with your paradigms and you take that help aid with you, then when there's something that you question or something that you're wondering about, you can look and double check yourself on it. Now, also, I think probably because YouTube doesn't like for me to make long videos, I'm going to stop here and come back in just a moment and do the second portion of this. So see you in just a minute.